Assalamu alaikum. My lecture today, lecture 10, it's about amalgam, one of the most popular filling materials used in dentistry. Dental amalgam is mixing liquid mercury with the solid particles of dental amalgam. It composes of powder and liquid. Powder is the amalgam alloy. Silver tin alloy may contain varying amounts of copper and small amounts of other elements such as zinc. Dental amalgam composed of many of advantages such as it is least technique sensitive of all restorative materials, two-step only lining and amalgam, and also applicable to a broad range of clinical situations, even in anterior teeth if it is not a presence in the oral cavity and not effect on aesthetic, we can use amalgam. In addition, the newer types have greater long-term resistance to surface corrosion. Corrosion, one of the most important disadvantage of the amalgam, and the newer types of amalgam have a resistance to corrosion. In addition to ease manipulation by dentists and minimal placement time compared to other materials. In addition, initial corrosion products seal the tooth restoration interface and prevent bacterial leakage. This is one of the most important advantage of amalgam, as the initial corrosion close the micro spaces between the amalgam and the tooth that prevent bacterial leakage, which is responsible for post-operative sensitivity in addition to recurrent caries. Also, from the advantage of the amalgam, it is one appointment placement. In addition, it is long-lasting if placed under ideal conditions. It is economical and no sensitivity to mouth tissue and have no irritation to the mouth tissue. Among the disadvantages of the amalgam, composed of the destruction of sound tooth tissue, as I mentioned in previous lectures, amalgam have no bond with the tooth structure. Therefore, the bonding with tooth structure is mechanical, and we need cavity and some features in which it can resist displacement or fracture of the amalgam. In addition, it is poor aesthetic quality, as its color is metallic color and it is not aesthetic. Long-term corrosion at the tooth restoration interface may be a result in ditching, leading to the replacement. In addition to galvanic response potential exists when we have two amalgam in the upper and the lower. During mastication, there will be electrical discharge will be effect with galvanic response. In addition to the possibility of mercury toxicity and marginal breakdown. What is the composition of dental amalgam? As I mentioned, it is composed of powder and liquid. Powder composed from number 1, silver. It is about 40 to 70% by weight, and this gives strength, produce high expansion. Number 2, tin. It is about 20 to 30% by weight, and this gives contraction, increase affinity for mercury, speed the amalgamation, reduce compressive strength, and increase the flow of amalgam. 3, copper. This is very important. If between 15 to 30%, it is called high copper alloys, and if less than 5%, it is called low copper alloy. Copper reduce corrosion, minimize the flow, and increase setting expansion. 4, zinc. If more than 0.01% zinc containing alloy, and if less, the amalgam classified as a zinc-free alloys. Zinc acts as a scavenger for oxides formed during manufacturing and help the process of amalgamation. From here, we can see that this composition is very important for the mechanical properties for the dental amalgam. Also, the alloy have different shape. Irregular shape, it is called lead cut. while the spherical shape alloy, called spherical alloy, mixture of the lead-cut and spherical alloy form an admixed alloy. This is all for powder. What's about the liquid? Liquid is pure mercury, which is highly dense liquid, very toxic if it is improperly handled. It can be absorbed by skin and it may be inhalated of its vapor during placement or removal of amalgam restoration. Mercury must be very pure because its impurities may reduce its combination with the alloy. So, the amalgam can be classified basically according to number 1, alloy particle geometry into lead-cut, spherical, and admixed alloy. Number 2, zinc content into zinc content and zinc-free alloys. And number 3, copper content into high copper and low copper content alloy. Now, amalgamation. Amalgamation is a process of reaction between the mercury and the amalgam alloy to form the restoration, amalgam restoration. In amalgamation here we have an important equation. Silver tin, it is the powder, reacted with the liquid, which is the mercury. And this will lead to formation of the silver mercury phase 1 and tin mercury phase 2 in addition to the unreacted silver tin. Okay, in the presence of the copper, it will replace tin mercury phase, lead to removal of the phase 2 tin mercury after a few hours after its formation, or totally it is disappear from the beginning. And this one, tin mercury, is responsible for the low mechanical properties. Therefore, the copper presence in the amalgam lead to increased mechanical properties for amalgam. Picture represent how the amalgamation occur between the alloy and the mercury, which have two phases, which is the solutions and crystallization. Now, what is about the properties of dental amalgam? Dental amalgam have several properties. Number 1, compressive strength. Compressive strength, it means the ability of amalgam to withstand force of mastication without fracture. Amalgam have a high compressive strength for high copper alloy and less for low copper alloy. Because amalgam is brittle material, therefore a sudden application of excessive force to amalgam tend to fracture of amalgam restoration. Number 2, tensile strength. Tensile strength, the ability of the amalgam to remove from, it is the lateral forces applied on the amalgam and lead to removal or displacement of the amalgam from the cavity. And because the amalgam is strongest in compression and much weaker in tension and shear, the prepared cavity design should maximize the compression force in surface and minimize tensile and shear stress resulted from bite forces, as we discussed later on the cavity design and how to keep amalgam inside the cavity by making the cavity with a special design. Also, I have a creep. It is permanent deformation under static loads. Under a continued application of force and compression, amalgam show a continued deformation even after the mass has completely set, and the maximum allowable creep value for dental amalgam should not exceed 3% after aging of the amalgam restoration at oral temperature for 6 months. The creep value will be reduced. Okay, again, high copper alloy have lower creep value in compared with the low copper alloy. So low copper alloys may have high incidence of marginal fracture in compared with high copper alloy. Also, dimensional change. The amalgam undergo shrinkage at the first time after setting, first 20 times. And after this period, the expansion will occur, although the total change remain negative and the dimension become constant within 24 hours. Now, in case of contamination of amalgam by moisture, which occur during mixing or condensation of amalgam, the presence of zinc in amalgam will decompose water into hydrogen and oxygen gases, which will lead to excessive delay expansion of the amalgam restoration, and this may cause number 1, marginal discrepancy, number 2, pitting of the surface of restoration, number 3, compression of the surrounding two surfaces, number 4, post-operative pain, 5, fracture of the restoration, 6, recurring caries. Therefore, during the placement, mixing and placement of the amalgam, the cavity should be completely dry in order to prevent these disadvantages. Okay, in addition to the properties of the amalgam, there is corrosion. Corrosion, it is a progressive destruction of the metal by chemical or electrochemical reaction with its environment. The early corrosion products are important to reduce the marginal leakage of the freshly placed restoration. Excessive corrosion can lead to increased porosity, reduced marginal integrity, loss of strength, and release of metallic products into the oral environment. Also, we have tarnish. Tarnish, it is a black discoloration of the surface of amalgam due to chemical corrosion with sulfide. Okay. Packing of the amalgam alloy. The alloy is separated from the mercury by membrane, is ruptured during mixing. Previously, amalgam is present in the market as powder and liquid, which mixed in an adequate ratio between them. Nowadays, it is present as a capsule. This capsule have the adequate ratio between the powder and liquid of amalgam, and have a membrane between them that prevent the mixing of the powder and liquid until we use in the amalgamator. Okay, manufacturers commonly supply capsules containing 400, 600 or 800 milligram of alloy with appropriate amount of mercury. The alloy mercury ratio is determined by manufacturer according to the type of alloy and the size and shape of its particles. Now, what is amalgam mixing? Mixing of amalgam nowadays by the use of the amalgamator. Amalgamator device is present here in this picture. Type of mixing, we have 3 types of mixing of amalgam. Number 1, undermixed amalgam. The mercury doesn't completely wet the outer surface of the particles, so the mass remains soft for a longer period of time, producing an amalgam with a longer working time. Such an amalgam mass contains excessive amount of porosity, has lower strength, and possesses low mechanical properties. Number 2, normal mix, which appear shiny and separate in one mass from the capsule with excellent mechanical properties. Number 3, overmixed amalgam, which appear soupy and tend to stick to the inside of the capsule. And overmixed reduce working time and causing the reaction rate to increase because the amalgamated mass become hot. The resulted amalgam has low compressive strength and high creep. Therefore, I should have a normal mix. Normal mix is very important to have a good mechanical properties for the amalgam. And we can test the amalgamator by making one capsule for check the time I should have for mixing in order to get the normal mix for the amalgam restoration. Okay, after I make mixing for the amalgam capsule, now I will do amalgam condensation. What is the purpose of amalgam condensation? Number one, good adaptation of amalgam to cavity walls and margins. Number two, get compact and homogeneity amalgam restoration and minimal voids that can affect the strength of the filling. Number three, to remove excess of mercury and this reduce the dimensional change, creep and increase mechanical properties. So, amalgam condensation, it is very important step in order to have a good amalgam and also to get rid from the voids formed during condensation and also to have a good mechanical properties and reduce dimensional change of the amalgam. After mixing, the amalgam must be used immediately prolonging the time between mixing and condensation, because this will lead to condensation of partially set amalgam and that may lead to a break and fractures of the matrix that have been formed in the mixed amalgam. So once I do mixing for the amalgam capsule, I should use it without any delay. Otherwise, we will lead to the set of the amalgam and we will lose its mechanical properties. Also, the cavity to be filled should be kept completely dry during amalgam condensation. As I mentioned previously, any contamination by moisture during mixing or during condensation will lead to poor mechanical properties for amalgam. Condensation of amalgam is either hand or mechanical. Hand condensation. There are many hand instruments with many tip shapes and with the different size. The most commonly used instrument here is the condenser. Number two, lateral and vertical direction of the condensation provides better adaptation of the amalgam to the cavity walls and floor. Number three, amalgam should never be touched with hands to eliminate contaminations. Number four, the amalgam carried to the cavity in a small amount by using amalgam carrier, and condensation should be done immediately to each small increment, because if large amount of the amalgam is put in the cavity, the condensation will be ineffective to have a properly condensed restoration with low amount of mercury. After condensation of each amount, the surface of the amalgam will appear shiny because there is excess of mercury present at the surface. This should be removed from the surface of each amount of amalgam before applying the next increment. 6. Condensation is continued till we have overfilled cavity, and this overfilling is important for ensure that the cavo surface margin are completely covered to avoid exposure of the margin and to be able to do good carving in addition to get rid of excess mercury. Here in this picture I have condenser, the instrument that most commonly used for condensation. As we see in the tip of the condenser, there is serration. This serration is very important during condensation of amalgam. Here the condensation of class 2 amalgam, I will start from the box, and in each time I use a small amount of amalgam and do condensation. This condensation should be in vertical and lateral against the wall of the tooth structure in order to remove the excess of mercury, avoid voids that formed during condensation. As I saw that the serration of the condenser is very important to remove excess mercury between condensations. And I start from the box, and into the box will be filled, and then I will fill the occlusal surface. In the occlusal surface, I make sure that all the margin should be completely covered by amalgam. So, here, how much amalgam I put in the cavity before I do carving. Here I will put until the overfill of the cavity will occur. This overfill is very important to make sure that all cavo surface margin filled and also produce good space for carving material without over carving. This clinical situation, here I do condensation, then after that I use burnisher to make sure that the cover surface margin filled with amalgam. Otherwise, repeat amalgam as I will have an exposed margin. Then by probe I will remove the excess amalgam. Also, I have mechanical condensation. If a high condensation force required, can use mechanical condensation with electrical devices. And this used for condensing irregular shaped alloy. Thank you very much. This is the end of part 1 with 20 minutes. I will be continue the amalgam restoration lecture and other part. Thank you.